Hello and welcome to Bright Ideas with me, Anita Rani, a brand new podcast brought to you by EE. We are all trying to live our best life, but what really does that even mean? Well, I have the answer. I'm speaking to experts and celebrities about their lives to find out the life hacks and apps they use to be the very best version of themselves. I'll be focusing on 4 key areas that together make a more fulfilled life. That's home, career, appetite to learn new things, and how they unwind and have fun. Each conversation is packed with tips, tricks, and advice that we can all use to help improve our own lives. I'm absolutely thrilled to introduce my guest on Bright Ideas. It is the one and only Alexander Armstrong, or Xander, as you are lovingly known.
Yes.
It's very cool. I don't know any other Xanders.
Do you know what? I didn't know of any other Xanders at all. And my mother says she invented Xander. I mean, obviously she didn't invent it, but she came up with Xander, spelt with an X.
Yeah.
And she was so sort of jealously proud of it that she didn't really like it being used outside the family. So if she heard people, she'd go, oh, I mean, when, you know, once I sort of moved up to London, everyone started calling me Xander.
Yeah.
She said, oh, does everyone call you that? And I was going, yeah.
It's lovely. It's just a beautiful name, and it's only you.
But it's weird if you have a name that's an abbreviation that's the second half of your name.
Yeah.
People are much happier with Alex or Al. They love that. Xander. I'm trying to think of any others.
No, Xander's great. I've got one because I've got a friend called Patrick, and we call him Trick.
Yeah.
Cool.
Of course.
Yes.
But people would be nervous about if he was Pat or Paddy.
Yeah,
people would just come. They dive straight in.
Yeah.
But if it's Trick, people think, oh, that's.
Yeah.
I don't know anyone called Topher, but which apparently is short for Christopher. I wouldn't leap onto Topher.
No, it's not quite as cool as Trick or Xander.
No.
I think we should tell people what you're known for. Not that I need to, because we know you're the host of Pointless.
Yes.
One of my favourite shows.
Thank you.
One half of the brilliant comedy duo Armstrong and Miller. You have a musical career as well, and also you're an author. You're a man of many, many talents, and I cannot wait to discover how you stay on top of it all and remain creative and inspired and curious.
Yes.
Because you are all these things.
Yes.
So welcome to Bright Ideas.
Thank you very much indeed. It's lovely to be here.
On a scale of 1 to 5, how happy are you right now?
Right now, 5. I'm very happy. I am very happy. I generally am happy. I think it's probably because I don't really think very much. But, that'll do for me.
You think a lot. How do you define happiness? What is it?
Happiness, I think, it's something that happens between your perception and your digestion. It's something about the spirit in which you take in the world around you. Possibly, I'm the 3rd child in a family of quite strong characters. Consequently, I feel like I've got a lot of shelter above me. So my brother, for example, who's the oldest in our family, he takes things, he's on the front foot. And if any facts or information are all coming in, he sort of deals with that and sort of digests it and passes it on to my sister, who digests it and passes it on to me. So by the time things come to me, they don't need a lot of chewing by and large, which is very good. But it means it means it can take a long time for bad news to filter through.
Is it because, are you seen as the baby? Do they treat you like the baby?
Yes, I think sort of.
Yeah.
They probably think they don't these days, but they do.
Yeah. I think we should get going because I've got different 4 different categories to get through. Learn, home, work, and how you relax game. So let's start with learn.
Yes.
This is how you keep curious about the world, and you are definitely someone who's always discovering, learning, and sharing. And you are very knowledgeable. We know this because from watching you on Pointless, you always know the answers.
I'm very selective about when I offer up the answers.
But you're always very keen to offer them up when you know.
Oh, my goodness. Oh, no one more smug than me when I know the right answer. We've been so lucky to have wonderful co-hosts.
It was one of the best.
I loved having you on.
I loved it so much. I got to co-present with you. And I mean, I love the programme. And I watch it at home. Oh, and a biscuit.
Biscuits. Lovely.
Is there anything new you're learning at the minute?
Do you know what I have started doing is relearning French.
Very good.
I used to speak French a bit. I did French A-level, and then forgot all of it and got quite scared of ever speaking French to French people in case they spoke French back to me. The nice thing about French people is that you don't have to ask them one question in French and they know to speak in English to you.
Correct.
But I wanted to put that right. So
why?
Me and,
why now?
Well, our boys, we've got 4 boys. And our oldest is a linguist. He wants to go on and do French at university. So I suddenly thought, it's about time, when we go to France, which we of course will do, I'd quite like to be able to speak French again. I mean, it's as shallow as that, but it's a strange thing, reopening things that you used to do. And you'd imagine it is not, as it turns out, like riding a bike.
So how are you learning French? Are you using an app or?
I'm using the brilliant Duolingo, which of course Duolingo bullies me. And when I was away in Switzerland a couple of weeks ago, and I did do it every day, it kept saying, you didn't do it yesterday. And it used up all my streak freezes. And you have to be a Duolingo user to know what that means.
I know, I don't know.
Oh, no.
I need to do it.
You have to do it every day.
Yeah.
And if you don't, you lose your thing. And they're forever sending you reminders. Please do it. But it does mean I do it every day.
That's very good. How long do you have to spend on it every day?
You can do the bare minimum if you don't really want to do that long. So maybe 3 or 4 minutes or something.
Oh, right.
But it really gets under your skin. And, you find yourself beginning to understand how the pronouns are meant to go. And I and on, all these things that I was always baffled by when I was younger. I'm now very much au fait with, you see. I mean, look, there we are. It's just creeping into my usage.
If someone's stuck in a rut but wants to start something new, what advice would you give them?
I think we all have to be very careful about, I don't know if this is, one generalizes about the way one feels about oneself. I have a terrible habit of, there's a very stale version of me that I can sort of just settle into, sort of slightly flabby, lazy, and it's not me. I don't know why, but it's a version of me that's slightly effortless.
Yeah.
And it's a version that, I don't know, so many things that are governed by a sort of a persona that I've sort of willed on myself that's not me, but it's an awkward and slightly sluggish and a bit, not a bit too lazy to try other things. And you have to sort of slap yourself around the chops and go, no, that's not you, and it never was. You've got to be on the balls of your feet. Remember what it's like falling in love. And that's what you have to think about all the time. And you forever have to push yourself out from that sort of sluggish rut. You have to think about falling in love. And it's not actually about falling in love, but it's about falling in love with a book, or about falling in love with a piece of music, or falling in love with a band. All those times you did that, you were doing it because you were out there, you were waving about, ready to be receptive to new ideas. And you just have to make sure, because I suspect, I don't know what that sort of slightly fetid version of oneself is, or where it comes from, but does that make sense to you?
Oh my God, massively.
Do you have that?
Yeah, and nobody is a bigger, harsher critic or a bigger punisher than I am with myself.
Yeah.
I think of that as being a very sort of certain British trait, crippling, like, oh my God, I can't believe I did that.
If you ever want an excuse to stay awake in your bed all night and not sleep awake, you just have to just go over the excruciating moments in the last 24 hours, 48, 72, and you just think, oh God, did I say that?
I'm very inspired by the fact that you're able to recognize that person and know that you have to do something about it. And that's
you have to do it. Stand on your tiptoes and think of wavy corn in the sun.
Falling in love.
You have to fall in love. Be ready to fall in love with everything.
You strike me as somebody who has a real zest for life, though. And that's just when I look at you from afar and the variety of work that you do, whether it's presenting, comedy, music, acting, writing, and you have so much that you do, and you do it all so brilliantly and to a very successful degree as well, all of it. It's very impressive. I just think now there's someone who's just always on the balls of his feet, always falling in love. Can we talk about writing?
Yes.
And writing your novel?
Yes.
And why did you want to write an epic fantasy adventure?
Because I sort of had to. I didn't set out thinking it was what I was going to do, but I started collecting ideas. You know what that's like, that sort of ideas board, when you're just thinking, yes, or there's a mood board rather, and you're just thinking, well, that'd make a good setting for a story. And it got to the point where suddenly I had this I had so many things. They were all starting to line up. And I was thinking, ooh, because you could make that go from there to there and that. And if you set it there, then you could have this and that and then that. And they thought, well, oh, and that's you could turn it around and have a little surprise reveal here. And then you think, well, I've got to write this because it's really fun. This is going to be such a good story. And so I had to sit down and do it. And it was clearly inspired by the fact that we have 4 boys, and I was reading. And one of the great privileges of parenting is reading to your children. I mean, it's been sort of part of our daily routine since Rex, our oldest, was born in 2007. You know, I mean, even before he could speak, it was lovely. He and I would have bath time and reading. And then as the others got older, they all got folded into it. And so we would, we would sit in, we sort of take it in turns, so it wasn't always the same child's room that we'd sit in, but we'd all convene for stories after bath time. And apart from anything else, it's just lovely to read old stories and new. And you can share lots of stories that you loved.
Well, I suppose you should tell us about the Read It Forward initiative.
Read It Forward.
Yes.
Well, I mean, this is kind of what it's all about.
Yeah.
Making sure children know how lovely books are. Once you've discovered reading, for those of us who were lucky enough to fall in love with reading when we were in, 7, 8, 9, we carried this great world full of colour and flavour around in our heads.
Yeah.
And you can access it just by opening a book. And you're straight back in. It's a great, it's not only a great treat, but it's for your mental health. It's a vital outlet.
Yeah.
And it informs so much in your life. Read It Forward is this fabulous initiative, bookshop.org. And by the way, they are terrific people. I mean, there are lots of wonderful online ordering services for books that will deliver them to your door. Bookshop.org is in league with all our independent bookshops. And the reason why the independent bookshops are so important is because they are the people who invest all their love and time in making the most wonderful environment, a kind of Aladdin's cave for children. When they go if you go into an independent bookshop, if it's a really well-run one, and they all are, in my opinion, I haven't yet come across a bad one, they create this lovely hub in the communities they serve.
Yeah.
I mean, like no other shop, I mean, very few shops on high streets these days have that relationship with their community.
Or just stepping into an independent bookshop gives me such a feeling of comfort. There's something about the smell.
Yes.
There's something about the acoustics.
Yes.
And just that lovely, kind person sitting behind the desk, often reading, kind of looking up at you, and then you just disappear into your world. You've done so many things. How satisfying is it to be able to say that you're an author?
It's really, truly lovely.
Yeah.
And interestingly, that you were asking before about how I keep myself curious. And the answer is, I think every little thing that I do is an antidote to all the other things I do.
Yeah.
So I don't... To me, it doesn't feel like a plate that's sort of teetering with far too much food. It's almost like everything on it is I don't know, this is such a poor analogy because I don't know where I go with that, but everything I do with it.
No, I'm loving the food analogy. It's like it's just perfectly balanced.
It's like there's food and then there's pudding. There's food and then there's pudding. You know how you've eaten, I couldn't eat another thing, but would you like pudding? Oh, yes, I'd love that. Certainly, I've got room for that. It's like that. So writing is pudding for me. So, I find that actually the perfect thing to do at the end of a busy, quite stressful day is to go back into my book and write.
Yeah, so I was going to ask, when do you find the time? Like, how disciplined are you?
I'm quite disciplined.
Yeah.
The worst bloody thing is my mobile. Every so often just goes, and I go, what? And like there's some bloody headline. Because I have so many different papers digitally. That every time there's a new headline from there, I go, well, I must just read about it. And I think, no, stop with the headline reading. There's some sort of mad, shrill op-ed. The world's going to hell in a handcart. Oh, I must read about this. I love handcarts in hell. No, I must put that down and not.
How do you do that, though? Do you leave it in another room? Are you very good at just not picking it up? Do you have...
What I need is a deadline. And I'm really good with a deadline. Yeah, but by and large, I'm really good at the deadline.
Yeah, I do. I need someone to give me a kick.
And then I can actually settle down and get on with stuff.
This podcast is powered by EE, offering a fast and reliable network that keeps your home office running smoothly. With EE's 4G and 5G coverage, plus products like the EE Wi-Fi Home Hub, you'll always have the speed and security you need to make the most of your workday, staying productive and collaborative, no matter where you are. You are listening to Bright Ideas with me, Anita Rani, brought to you by EE. My guest is the wonderful Alexander Armstrong. Let's talk about home and routines. And you've said that there's lots of routine at home and the cup of tea in the morning. Is it always a cup of tea?
It's always a cup of tea.
Has to be.
Has to be.
Yorkshire?
Cup of tea. Well, no, my wife has. She does love Yorkshire tea, but it's good old PG Tips is what she has.
Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, she has PG Tips, and because that's just me. I sort of fetishize. I have lots of lovely different loose leaf teas that I love. Different times of day. I like different teas.
Oh, do you?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, come on, give us more.
Love it. Well, at tea time, sort of, by which I mean sort of about 4:30 in the afternoon.
I know, you have to explain.
A very smoky lapsang souchong tea.
Yes.
And I have a really good one of those. I have a delicious orange pico for the morning, which I do love.
I know it very well.
But we have various other little sort of those, what the hell are they called? Silver tips, I think they're called. They're just absolutely delicious. So like a sort of a very pale tea. I mean, I have...
No, you are preaching to someone who, keep going, I'm a tea...
called Emperor's Golden Eyebrow tea. And that
just the one.
Exactly, just the one. But I think it's because it's got the shape of the leaves. Yes, the Emperor probably needs a trim.
How do you switch off?
I do. I don't know if I do switch off, but I do. I listen to music a lot. And music for me is slightly religious, really. In fact, it's not slightly. It is part of my religion. I mean, I sang in a choir, in a sort of church, and then sort of chapel choir, cathedral choir. So choral music. You're a chorister.
Exactly.
Well, choral music is right at the heart of everything I adore.
Since you were little?
Since I was little.
Yes. Tell us more. Tell us about this. Give us an insight into how important that was.
It's an amazing thing to do. I mean, when you sign up to it when you're little, but this is being a chorister, you sort of, it's very exciting because you're part of something that you've got in, auditioning for something, and getting the call up is, like a trial for a team. I mean, no matter what the team is, it doesn't have to be the first team. It could be the thirds or whatever. But a trial for a team, and then someone saying, "Yeah, you're in. By the way, we thought you were great." You think, "Ooh!" You instantly start with a bit of a shove at your back and thinking, "Well, this is good." And you're in the case of being a chorister, you really are part of something extraordinary.
Yeah.
And you're part of this small group of people that can produce a sound that's as good as anyone can make anywhere. And you're part of that little, you're a small part of that, but an important part of it. So you are sort of hurled into this extraordinary level of incredibly high professional level of music making from the get-go. And you're immersed in this extraordinary theatre as well. You have to dress up. You have to put
It's quite an elite world, I would say. When you put it out, when you just described it as a team, I thought, yeah, you're absolutely right. But it's a team that it's like, imagine being in that choir. When you see young boys singing in, whether it's York Minster or wherever.
York Minster is a great choir.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Beautiful place. But, it's like, that's really special.
It is special. And actually, funnily enough, elite is it's interesting that's the word you use, because I'm very involved in cathedral music, and I know that a lot of people say, well, it's very elitist. And I always find myself thinking, well, we create elites.
Yeah.
But the one thing we absolutely have done and must do, continue to do, and do better than we have done, is make sure that our recruitment is from everywhere.
Yeah, correct.
And we've been very good. Our cathedral songrooms, by and large, are very good ethnic mixes. They're very good mixes of all different backgrounds, low and high income.
Yeah.
There's all sorts of different kids singing there. They're no longer boys only, which is marvellous.
Which is good to hear. But when I said use the word elite, I didn't mean elitist. I actually just meant elite
but I think,
just
we
very
create
special.
An elite.
Yeah. Yes.
And in the same way that you, with sports teams, you create an elite by hard work.
Yes.
And I think it's a great thing for all kids to be given an opportunity to put the effort in and become an elite, if you know what I mean.
And so music is a huge part of your life. I'm just imagining kind of you reading to your 4 boys. How do you connect as a household around music? Have you sort of imposed your taste on them, or are they open?
I've tried.
Yeah,
I've
did
tried.
it work?
Lord love us, I've tried. Do you know, every summer holiday when we were little, it started off with just me making a playlist for the car, because a lot of time spent in the car, 6 of us driving around.
Wonderful.
But it's a really good opportunity. So, you know, I've introduced the boys to, Vampire Weekend, for example, which we have bonded over our shared love.
Absolutely.
And over the past. But all kinds of music from the past, you know, things that I have adored. But also a really good range of a lot of indie music. Also classical music. They tend not to be on the summer playlist, but classical music as well in among. But it then got to the stage where the boys have started to ask if they can put stuff in as well, which is brilliant. So we're all getting to learn. So everyone now chips in. Our 10-year-old Henry is obsessed with film music, and the sort of film music he loves is sort of really very highly charged, sort of Mission Impossible type. You know, he loves all the Mission Impossible films, and so the minute one of his songs comes on, you're driving along, so you go, God, can we go back, please, to the indie? Or the light dinner jazz that Rex, our 17-year-old, is now very, very fond of.
What a range from 17 to 10.
They're all quite tightly grouped at the top.
Are they? Okay.
Yeah.
So what's it like? I do feel like you bring the 10-year-old up in a slightly different world to the 17-year-old.
I mean, almost as an only child in a way, because the other 3 are, they're 17, 15, 14, and they're actually getting to become really good friends, which is lovely. I mean, they're having spent a lot of their childhood vying for parental attention and affection. For them, they think it's a zero-sum game, and they don't realize that actually, no, it's limitless. Yeah. We love you all. And they're all beginning to love each other for their very different skills.
I imagine you listen to records. I can see that. But are you also somebody who downloads? Do you make playlists? What do you use?
Always, yeah.
Yeah.
I have Spotify. I have Apple Music, and I have Apple Classical, which I love, just because it's much better for finding. The indexing is much more applicable to classical music, which is great. And playlists, 100%. Spotify, just because there are so many wonderful Spotify playlists that I've had recommended to me, and people use that. So I listen to a lot of Spotify playlists. I tend to make my playlists on Apple. We do our family playlist on Apple. I mean, I'm so unsavvy when it comes to tech. I wish someone would show me all the things I could do.
I mean, you can't keep up with it.
Well, that's the trouble.
What about your kids? Do they not kind of keep you up to date?
Yeah, they kind of do. And they'll come and Edward, who doesn't even bother telling me what to do, he just says, "Dad, give me your phone." And he's going, and I'm thinking, you can do that? How? Anyway, that. So yes, we tend to use. Yeah, I tend to listen through apps. The problem is, though, and this is a problem with streaming, is that there's just the world is there, and you badly need sort of trusted curation.
You do.
You know, you want a trusted person to say, "Take my arm, I shall lead you through the forest." You know, otherwise you're just going to get lost in there.
Yeah, that's why we need you.
So
take us through the classical forest.
For classical, yeah. I thought this is our plan, is just to make lots of really beautiful journeys through that bring you out the other side and surprise you.
So you listen to a lot of music, you read. What other hobbies do you have?
We walk a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, that's we have 2 really, really lovely, but really annoying.
Doggies.
Yes. Oh. They're Norfolk Terriers, and they're just never have 2 terriers.
Of course they are. Norfolk. Have to be.
They're beautiful. I mean, they're beautiful, beautiful. Only ever have 1 terrier would be my piece of advice for anybody wanting to get dogs. 1 terrier, have another dog as well, but not a terrier. 2 terriers.
Are they boys too?
Boy and a girl.
Okay, so there is
There's a girl.
There's a girl in the family.
Dotty. Yeah, there's a girl. But no, we can only ever let 1 off the lead at a time. Someone came on Pointless and said they were from Oxford, which is where we live, and I said, "What do you like doing?" They said, "Well, we walk our dogs." And I said, "Where do you walk your dogs?" And they said, "We walk them on Port Meadow." And I said, That's where we walk our dogs." And the ladies raised an eyebrow and said, "Yes, I know, Haggis and Dotty." And I thought, okay, yeah, fair dues.
It's funny, isn't it? You get to know other people's dogs. You know the dog names. You don't know the people names.
Oh, no.
No, you just know the dog names.
Yes.
You present on Classic FM as well. So do you listen to a lot of classical music in your spare time? Do you unwind and listen?
I find I increasingly listen almost exclusively to classical music. It's weird. I do still. I mean, I still love. I've got Sam Fender's new album. I haven't listened to it. I've downloaded it.
Yeah.
And I'm longing to hear it. I do think he's fabulous. I just don't find myself listening to pop music as much as I did. Or rather, I find myself more obsessively listening or needing to listen to classical music.
It's the one genre I don't know enough about.
Classical music, the world of classical music has been rubbish at recruiting. You know, we don't do it well. However, I have plans for you.
All right, yes.
I've been devising with a friend. Well, no, we've now got this. It's ready to go. We're launching in June a thing called Passion. It's Passion, we're calling it. And it's basically me demonstrating to everybody who I know and love why I love classical music, because it's not any different to why I love indie music or any kind of other music. It's physical, it's sort of visceral, and it's deeply part of me.
Yeah.
And I think it's to do with making classical music something that doesn't exist behind music stands, something that can exist on its feet, something that can exist in the round, something that doesn't have to happen in a concert hall, something you can even amplify. I mean, I think you could amplify classical music and make it something full of passion and music and movement, and to make it participatory. If you go to Glastonbury, you can stand half a mile back from the stage and still be part of this single organism and feel like a participant. If you're at the back of the Wigmore Hall at lunchtime, which is a lovely thing to do, by the way, if that's your bag, but if it's not your bag, you're not a participant.
Yeah. No.
So it's all about getting people by the lapels and saying, in you come, you're part of this.
I know, I do love it. I just don't know enough about it, but I love it. Like Lark Ascending is I find it really difficult to express emotion. I just cry because I'm upset about something. Like I can feel empathy for other people, but when I hear music, like art makes me burst into tears.
I know it does, because I know how visceral music, how much you love it.
Yeah.
And do you know what? It is precisely for you. This because I'm making this.
I cannot wait.
So it brings in all the things that I find stimulating.
Yeah.
All the things because I still love classical music, not because of, well, I mean, it was mainly because I was an insomniac, still am. Always get up really far too early in the morning.
Yeah.
And I got so bored waiting for other people to wake up that from the age of about 5, I'd just go downstairs and play with everything in the house that I wasn't allowed to play with during daylight hours. And that chiefly included the gramophone, which was mum and dad's record player. And the only things there was their record collection. So I just worked my way through Beethoven's symphonies, Mahler's symphonies, sort of Verdi, overtures.
Because your parents had the records.
They had the records. So I would just put on these records. And I loved the fact that I had this great blooming 90-piece orchestra as my friend. And I could make it work for me. And it was just amazing. It was so empowering. I
think that should be the start of your next book, a little 5-year-old at the middle of the night playing these amazing, bringing these orchestras to... I can just see little you.
It's exactly how it was.
Conducting the orchestra.
I used to conduct like a nutter. So for me, classical music was a sort of act of rebellion. And it was an act of companionship.
I'm in.
So
whatever. Yes,
we're putting it together. We're launching for South by Southwest London.
Fantastic.
Is when we launch. I will make sure you're there.
Yeah. I would love to.
Yeah.
I mean, I know what I like. I just want to know more about it, and I'm ready to do a deep dive. I've started doing this thing like Deep Dive Sundays, where I get a piece of vinyl that I don't know much about, and then kind of listen to it, and then kind of read around it. So I've just this Sunday I listened to Holt's Planets.
Brilliant.
Just very big, big hitters. Nothing too complicated yet, but like getting into it, just like baby steps.
Superb. Exactly. I did the same with modern jazz. Dizzy Gillespie and Oscar Peterson and Charlie Parker, and I didn't know anything about them. Thought I've got to learn.
Yeah.
And I just made myself. I adore it.
Yeah.
But you've got to. It's like a toffee. You can't chew it immediately. You've got to work it, and then you can.
We do have a whole section about game, but I feel we're naturally talking about how you unwind and what helps you relax. I've got to ask you about keeping fit.
Yes.
Because you obviously do like to keep fit. And I've got to tell everyone, if they didn't know, that we climbed Mount Kilimanjaro together.
We did.
Which was quite a
to
feat.
the very top.
To the very top.
It's a funny one, that, because it feels like it's sort of lovely. You know, we walked, and the incline is fairly gradual for the first 5 days or however long it was. And it's lovely. But you then suddenly find you're incredibly high up.
Yeah.
You know, so it was like we had the most lovely days full of walking. It's like walking in the Lake District.
Yeah, it was,
really.
yeah.
We covered miles and miles every day. And then suddenly we found ourselves at high altitude. And do you remember how we all became incredibly emotional?
Yeah, we did. We all wept.
Yeah. I mean, it got to the point where when we were just sort of under, it was about, I think it was that just before the big last 12-hour push. I remember being taken out for an interview with the actual peak of Kilimanjaro behind me. And they asked me a question. I just looked up at it and just went, yeah, it's just so... And they'd warned us. They said this would happen. You know, and I now understand why when you watch some films on an aeroplane, you suddenly find yourself crying uncontrollably. Altitude. It's what it is.
It does
something splendid with your emotions.
Were you already fit before you climbed Kilimanjaro? And how do you maintain your fitness? Are you more aware of it now?
Much more. Yeah. And also now being in my mid-50s, I was pretty lax about fitness actually around Kilimanjaro time. I now make sure I go to the gym because it's so much of one's not just physical but mental fitness. I'm convinced this is how I'll get myself to a point where I can remember the names of characters in my books and not become the sort of slightly lazy, indulgent slob version of myself.
You're never going to become that person. Do you use any apps? Are you into gadgets when it comes to fitness?
Not especially. No, no, that's not true. I did have a Fitbit, but I really like. Oh, I'm not wearing it. I really like my watch. And I found I was wearing a Fitbit on one wrist and a watch on the other, and it just looked a bit odd. Lots of people think, well, hang on, it's got to be one or the other. You can't really do both. I know you can get a ring.
Yes, there is a ring now.
You can
available.
get a ring, can't you? Which maybe I should do, but then I'll just be slightly over-ringed.
No, you can carry on. You'll be all right. Nothing wrong with a bit of bling.
Yeah, maybe. But no, apps that I do use to unwind. I'm a very keen crossworder.
Excellent.
And the lovely thing is that our boys now love crosswords. And it's one of those cryptic crosswords. It's a very hard thing to teach. You sort of have to go through it with them and hope that when you stop, they'll come back and say, should we do it again? And they do. On holiday now, we'll spend the morning chewing over.
I just want to be part of the family. I want to come and hang out and walk the dogs and get in the car and play music and get involved in the crossword and reading every night. Sounds heavenly. Have we not talked about comedy? Humour. How does humour shape your world?
Well, I mean, humour, I think, is everything. Humour is how we understand things, and humour is how we test and probe. And, humour allows us to go into all kinds of places that we wouldn't perhaps go to on the level, as it were. It's very, very useful for exploring things. And it's a big part of how we cope with everything. It sort of softens the blow. We've traditionally had a very good sense of humour in this country. Doctors traditionally always had that rather macabre, slightly gallows humour, which made their job doable down the ages, and I worry that we perhaps, I don't know, it's not that people have lost their sense of humour. People still have a terrific sense of humour, and people really do throw back their heads and laugh, and usually it's the same sort of things they always laughed at. I worry that people now feel there are lots of things that they worry, should I be laughing at this? Should I be laughing at this? I think there needs to be more license for humour.
Yeah.
And I think it needs to be acknowledged that it's a tool that's not for expressing opinion. It's expressing an exploration, and sometimes a sort of means of inhabiting something that's really very alien to what your opinion is.
Yes. And it's like, how am I laughing at this? But also reveals the absurdity of situation. I'm thinking of Chris Morris. I'm thinking of Four Lions.
I mean, there's a brilliant fellow.
Yeah. That ability to just make us go, oh my God, of course.
Yes.
It's really serious, but it's also ridiculous.
It is, and it's how we burst so many pompous bubbles.
Yeah.
It's also a great unifier.
Can I ask you a couple of quick fire questions? This is a really important one, actually. I want to know this one. You're in the middle of a conversation and you suddenly forget someone's name. Or how about you've just arrived and you know you've met them before? I bet this happens
all the time.
Because you meet people all the time.
Yeah.
How'd you get through it?
Someone gave me a brilliant tip. We were at a wedding, and I said, how do you remember everyone's names? There's so many people I recognize, and then think, I know them, I can't remember their name. And he said, I don't remember anyone's name. I said, no, yes, you do. You just introduced me. He said, no, but you didn't see what I did. He said, watch. Next, we'll go and talk to them, and I'll show you what I do. And so, sure enough, we went over. We were all chatting. And then as soon as a canapé thing came past, he picked one of those up. He said, oh, I'm so sorry. And we just introduced ourselves. And he said that's how he did it. It's such a good trick. Just wait for the melon and ham to come along.
Amazing.
I'm so sorry, how rude. And everyone, it was just ingenious.
Excellent. Very good.
So that's one. I mean, and if there isn't a canapé tray
what do you do?
I have a terrible problem, and this has got me into such hot water on many occasions, which is I don't remember faces until I know people well.
Yes, and also you meet so many people, though. It's not your fault.
I know,
so
but
many.
I know, but I would be mortally offended if somebody I'd sat next to at a wedding 2 weeks ago didn't remember my name because you're so busy going. No. But and I did that. I sat next. I saw someone one weekend who I'd seen not long before, and I really had no excuse. A normal person would have known precisely who she was, and of course, the minute I knew her name, I remembered everything about her.
So what did you do?
I couldn't understand why she'd taken against me so much when I was chatting to her. She was furious with me. And at the very end of the weekend, I said, it's been so nice to meet you. And she said, again. And I then went and said,
no, but you know what? She should have just said, you probably don't remember. That's nice when people go, you probably don't remember, but we met last week. Some people when people have done that with me, when it's obvious, and they go, Anita, you probably don't remember, but I'm internally go, thank you so much for just...
It's so nice. One must always remember that.
Just do that.
It's not just socially. Yeah. It's a real problem.
My trick is that with the name thing, is if I'm with somebody and I'm going to an event, I say to them, listen, there might be a chance that I'm going to see somebody that I know I've met before, but I will not know their name. Please, will you do this thing where you introduce yourself when I go, and you instantly, your job is to go, hi, my name's...
Brilliant.
What's yours?
Yeah.
Just do it.
Brilliant.
Just preempt it, get their name before I have an opportunity to even mess it up. We've got to that point where at the very end of the chat, actually, I could do this all day, but at the very end of all of these chats, we get our guests to add something to the bright list, a recommendation. It can be absolutely anything, something that just brings you joy, happiness, that brightens your own life, that you could recommend to us that we could possibly go and attempt to listen to or do.
Okay.
Or watch.
Okay.
Could be anything.
I am going to bring to the party.
Excellent.
You see, I'm going to go for this. It's the thing I would take with me to my desert island if I could only take one thing. It would be the Bach St. Matthew Passion. I would take that. It's just magnificent. So that's something I would urge anybody who like you thinks how do I get into classical music? If you could listen to that like I did with Oscar Peterson or Dizzy Gillespie, just listen through to it 3 or 4 times, and on the 4th or 5th time, or something, I kind of know this. Not only I kind of know this, I don't think I've ever loved anything as much as this. I think that is literally, it's one of those pieces of music. I'm
going to listen to it. I'm going to buy myself a bottle of delicious white Burgundy and listen to this album on your recommendation.
Yes.
Xander Armstrong, I have blooming loved chatting to you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I've loved it too.
Yeah, you brightened up my day. So that's it for another episode of Bright Ideas with me, Anita Rani, brought to you by EE. Please join me next time for more conversation where I uncover the tips and tricks to live a brighter and better life. And if you want to hear more about EE's bright tech ideas to help make everyday life that little bit easier, visit telegraph.co.uk/smartlife. There's loads of smart advice, from setting up parental controls to keep your kids safe online to making sure you never run out of data when you need it most. So until next time.